Okay, you should be able to see the IPA. You should have a copy of that on your computer screen in front of you. So it would be good to listen to that while we go through the different sounds in the phonetic alphabet. So firstly, let's just say there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and these are represented by 44 sounds in the phonetic alphabet. So you can see immediately spelling and pronunciation is quite different. English is not a phonetic language, and students do have difficulties with both spelling and pronunciation. Pronunciation problems can really hinder communication for learners, so it's an essential part, an integral part of learning a language and extremely important. It's good to try and incorporate pronunciation into most of your lessons in some form. So if we look at the first part of the chart, so this is the left-hand side of the chart, we're going to look at the vowels first. So you'll know the vowels as A, E, I, O, U in the alphabet, and obviously the phonemes, which is another name for the sounds, in the phonetic alphabet are a little bit different. So we're going to go through. So the first one is E, and this has got two dots by the sound of it to represent that it's a long sound. So we could think of words like sheep, tea, three. After that we've got I, and this is a short sound. So a good way to try and get your students to notice the difference between long and short is with the E, pull your hands as if you're stretching a piece of chewing gum as far out as you can. And for the I sound, clap. Then you might have to look at the differences between these two sounds, because some languages don't have long sounds, some have short sounds, and vice versa. So sheep, ship. So remember the chewing gum and clapping. The next one, we've got the sound, as in bush. And then we've got the long sound, which is oo. So this is a rounded mouth together, oo, as in boot. Can you hear the difference between the long and the short? Bush, boot. The next one is so quite a rounded mouth, bed, elephant, egg. The next one is the most common sound in the phonetic alphabet. It even has its own name, and this is called schwa. It's an unstressed sound, is very soft, and is extremely common in the English language, especially with little grammatical words. And the sound is as in banana, mother, father. The next sound, again, is a long sound because we've got two dots, and this is the sound. So imagine the letters E, R together, and imagine the piece of chewing gum and stretch those three letters out as far as you can. So we could have some example words like bird, third, girl. Another good way to help your students remember the sound is they often say that British food is so you could think about British food and the sound. After we've got or, so very rounded mouth, a long sound again, the or sound. So door, floor, horse. Some nationalities will have difficulties between these two sounds, so it's worth knowing that and practicing these two sounds. Or. Or. The next sound is so very open mouth, man, apple. The next one is so cup, umbrella. The next one, an easy way to remember this sound is to say, what do you say when you see a new baby? We all say, ah. When you go to the dentist, he might say, open your mouth and say, ah. So this is the ah sound, as in arm, car, far. And the last sound within these vowels is a very open mouth, O, as in clock, hot, got. So let's just have a run through these sounds again. So we've got E, I, U, oo, e, o, a, o. So now let's move on to the diphthongs. And the diphthongs are when we have two vowel sounds together. We stress the first one much more than the second one. So if we were going to look at it in percentages, maybe the first sound in the diphthong would be 66% and the second one would be about 33%. So the first one you should have in front of you is ear. So let's think of some example words with this sound. Dear, cheer, fear. So it's the ear sound. The next diphthong is A. So you could say to somebody, hey, or the number 8, or train. The next sound is a sound that I don't often use in the English language because of my accent. So sometimes when I'm teaching, I cross this sound out of the phonetic alphabet and say it's a perfectly acceptable sound. Many people use it, but it's not a sound that I particularly use. And the sound is ua. Now, my friend who lives up north will say tua. But if you don't use the ua sound, then ua often gets replaced with the or sound, which we've already looked at. So this is very much individual to where you're from, but it's good to explain this to your students. The next one is oi, so toy, boy. The next one is o, as in nose. Also, with telephone numbers, if we have 0, we don't say 0, we always say O. So that's a good way to remember this sound too. Then we've got air, as in air, chair, fair, bear. Then we've got I, as in night, I, island. And the last one, if someone jumps on your foot, what do you say? Generally, we all say ow. So this is the ow sound, house. So let's have a run through of the diphthongs again. Ear, a, ua, oi, o, air, I, ow. Moving on to the consonants, a lot of the consonants in the phonemic chart are very similar to how they look in the normal alphabet. So we're just going to have a look at the ones that look a bit different and maybe are a bit tricky. So the first one is ch. So for example, church, children, chew. And next to the ch sound, we've got j. For example, jug, juice, jam, German. Then we've got the two th sounds. And the first th sound is a circle with a line through it. And an example of this would be thumb. And this is unvoiced. Next to it is also the th sound, but this sound in particular is voiced. So an example would be weather, father. So if you put your hand on your neck near your throat, if you say thumb, you shouldn't be able to feel anything. If you say weather and father, you should be able to feel a small vibration. This is something that will need a lot of practice in the classroom, as the th sound can be quite a tricky sound for certain nationalities. Moving on, the next tricky sound would be sh. For example, shoe, shower, shine. On the last line, there is the sound. So ring, bring, thing. And the rest of the consonants are the same as in the alphabet. So this is a quick recap and rundown of the sounds in the phonemic alphabet. Use your sheet as a reference tool to look back on. There are many phonemic charts that you can use online that are interactive. So if you yourself have particular issues or problems with a certain sound, just keep repeating it and going back to it again and again. And also don't be scared of the phonetic alphabet. It looks quite strange, but you don't need to know it all perfectly. This is something you will learn on the job. And also, for particular nationalities, you need to pick out a couple of sounds that they find difficult. You don't need to know all of them correctly all of the time. And also get into good habits of getting your students to look words up in an English dictionary, because they will also have the phonemic transcription. So this will get your students into good study skills to recognise the phonemic transcriptions and individual phonemes that they find quite difficult.